Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. So first things first, my name is Alessia Zwagala. I'm a third year student here at Western University and I am anaphylactic to all peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, and mangoes. Quite the mouthful, isn't it? So for this video, I'm going to discuss what it's like to live with anaphylaxis being in university. Obviously, I'll touch on what anaphylaxis is, who's affected by it, its prevalence in Canada, and of course on a university campus. And then I'm going to get into the good stuff. So some research on this topic, what's already known about it, what more research do we need to do, and then what can we as a university community do to help this issue, to make students who live with anaphylaxis more comfortable and better their experience here at Western and really any university. So I have reached out to my good friend Debbie Bruce, who is the director of the Canadian Anaphylaxis Initiative, so she could provide a comment for this video, and she was very supportive in providing me with some valuable resources that I integrated into my discussion later on. So thank you, Debbie, and here's a message from her. Okay, let's get started. So what is anaphylaxis and how serious is it? So anaphylaxis is a lifelong medical condition that is essentially triggered by allergens, and the most common allergens, I will put them up here, are food, insect bites, certain medications, latex, and even exercise, or the combination of exercise with another allergen. So during an anaphylactic reaction, common symptoms include the things on the list here, but the biggest one really is the tightening and the swelling of the throat, because what that means is that it makes it much more difficult for air to go through your airway, often leading to suffocation and even death. 2.5 million Canadians live with anaphylaxis. That is 7.5% of the overall Canadian population, or 1/13 of the Canadian population. That's crazy. The scary part is that that number, that percentage, will continue to increase as the number of kids and even adults who develop allergies either in the beginning of life or in the middle of their lives increases, because as we know, allergies are becoming more and more common and more severe. Most Canadians living with anaphylaxis are youth aged 25 or younger, but we are seeing more and more middle-aged adults developing shellfish allergies, for example, in their 40s and 50s. And so this is a big indication that there's a growing demand for procedures and better recognition of allergies, because more and more of our Canadian population is suffering from anaphylaxis. We need to start prevention and start having proper recognition of allergies now. So that's some general information on the prevalence of anaphylaxis in Canada. But let's bring it back to a university campus. So specifically at Western, I did some digging, and essentially this year, for the 2017-2018 school year, 300 first-year students self-identified as having some sort of food allergy or dietary restriction through the first time ever online form for food allergies included in the residence application. That 300 is about 5% of the residence population. Granted, dietary restrictions and food allergies, that's not all anaphylaxis, and those are not all allergies. So again, disclaimer there. So based off of some rough estimates using data from government websites, about 16.5% of all Canadian university students experience some form of anaphylaxis or other type of moderate to severe allergy. Again, this is a pretty rough estimate, but as we can see, that's a pretty substantial number. And so again, keep in mind that over time, this percentage will continue to increase. For example, Hamilton in 2013 basically became a peanut-free city. They have EpiPens in public spaces, in malls, in some restaurants. They have them all over. That's contributing to the growing awareness that Hamilton has built there over the past couple of years. And so they're taking precautions in order to make that community as safe and inclusive as possible. And that is something that we need to see here at Western and other Canadian universities. In terms of what the provincial government is doing for young people with anaphylaxis, I'm so happy to say that in January, once OHIP Plus comes into effect, all EpiPens for youth under age 25 will be covered under OHIP. So in terms of research that has currently been done to study anaphylaxis in youth, and more specifically anaphylaxis on a college campus, there are some common themes that occur amongst the scholarly articles that I have read. But I want to focus on two main ones right now, which are the social aspect of living as a university student with anaphylaxis, also the anxiety and the transfer of accountability from the parent when the child is living at home to when the child is now at university and being thrust into the world as an adult, them being their own advocate. So one study in particular found that youth were much less likely to stick to their checking ritual if they felt that their peers disapproved of it. So in terms of personal experience, I'm very fortunate to have friends who are learning and are open to learning and who I have an open dialogue with. Many students don't have that or don't have that open communication with their friends and often feel pressured to sway from their typical management processes because they feel embarrassed or awkward or they feel like they can't talk about it. Those studies show that teens and youth under age 25, aside from the fear of death or physical implications, are most concerned about the social implications or the social detriments of being allergic in a social environment, the social isolation that can come with being so severely allergic to something. An additional study by Sampson showed that 61% of the sample indicated that all of their friends knew about their food allergy, whereas 33% indicated that some knew but some didn't, and then 6% indicated that none knew. The most staggering statistic from this report, though, shows that 62% attested to being teased about their allergy. There's a study that shows that the impact of alcohol can increase the rate at which a food allergen is absorbed into the bloodstream, which can speed up the rate of a reaction. In addition to, we all know this, being drunk influences our reaction time, our muscle coordination, and it severely impairs our judgment. So another example of how social circumstances can be difficult to navigate is in terms of romantic relationships, right? A study showed that food allergens may remain present in saliva up to several hours after consumption of that allergen. It's a very real possibility that I can have an anaphylactic reaction through the transfer of saliva. Similarly, in terms of romantic partners again, people with latex allergies cannot use latex condoms. Basically, the common theme of these two small examples is that people need to have open dialogue with their partner. That being said, an anaphylactic university student has to be very cautious about who we interact with, and we have to make sure that we are in a proper, sound state of mind in order to make safe decisions for ourselves. Another common theme in the research was the release of parental control and the transfer of responsibility onto the youth. Most anaphylactic reactions and deaths by anaphylaxis occur amongst young people aged 25 or younger. And that's because this transfer of responsibility often is a lot for young people to handle, especially if they were not used to handling it and being independent about their allergies before they left home to go away to school. During that transition, students are no longer in a really controlled environment, right? When you're living at home, everything's controlled, you're cooking for yourself, you have your parents around. It's very different than being in university, eating in a cafeteria, having to work with cafeteria staff, but there's still the risk of contamination. One statistic from a particular study that shows that people who are particularly vigilant about their allergies are 5 times more likely to develop a form of panic disorder and have significantly higher anxiety levels. And I know I've experienced some anxiety from my allergies as well.
So I'm very concerned about this issue on campus. Obviously, health and wellness and safety of our students are of primary importance for me and for many of us here at Western and at King's. We'll continue to learn from our students and our staff and our faculty who are affected and make changes on a regular basis and review them annually to ensure that we're staying ahead of the curve on some of these issues. We can always get better, so it's not necessarily always about saying, okay, we've done it and we're good. We know we learn more every month, every year about these issues, and we want to ensure that we're staying ahead of the curve on these issues on campus. Recently, we actually designated some zones at King's that are peanut free and nut free, and trying to ensure that we're staying ahead of the curve on some of those issues again. But working with some of our individuals here, students, faculty, and staff, we targeted specific areas to help people feel more included in the environment and ensure that they feel comfortable here. So we designated some zones, some spaces on campus where students can feel comfortable, and we designated those with some signs so that students can see that they're safe in this area.
Going back to the example of how Hamilton has become a nut safe city, I would really like to see Western and other university campuses adopt similar practices in having publicly available EpiPens on campus, just like how we have AEDs or fire extinguishers. Having epinephrine accessible in on-campus eateries and cafeterias is so important, because even people who know that they have allergies might not know that they have a severe allergy, or someone might go living their life without knowing that they have an allergy at all, and then one day they develop it and they need that epinephrine injection. When in doubt, it's always better to receive an epinephrine injection than not to, because not taking it is much more harmful than taking it to be on the safe side if you think you're experiencing anaphylactic shock. So this is an initiative I would really like to see Western adopt in the near future. So Debbie has worked with the Toronto Argos and even the Toronto Blue Jays to create nut-reduced zones, and with the Argos they have a nut-reduced suite to minimize the risk of airborne anaphylactic reactions occurring when people are attending games due to peanuts being commonly sold in concession stands, and then other people opening them up and that peanut dust contaminating the air. It's actually a very real risk of an allergic reaction. And so Pinball Clements even made an appearance at one of the games in August that Debbie invited me to, because he is a proud supporter of this cause as well. So that's my video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I hope that collectively we can all work together and apply this knowledge to make any university campus a much safer environment and more inclusive community for all allergic students like myself. And so if you have any questions about anything or any of the information that I provided in this video, please feel free to reach out to me, and I would be more than happy to answer those questions. So thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for further anaphylaxis-related initiatives, because I'm always looking to promote this cause, and if you would like to promote it with me, then we should collaborate. So bye for now.